Yo, what up though? It's your boy, the baddest Baba that ever bobbed, and today we got the Gods Unchained, Divine Order, Legendary tier list. So let's get into it. Alright, so we're just gonna run down the line, starting with the Negros. This is a 9 mana card from the War Domain, and a Negros Demon Prince. And so it's got God Blitz, one of the few cards in the game that has God Blitz, which is kind of crazy. And it also says when this creature destroys another creature, obliterate it instead. And its roar does 6 damage to each enemy creature. So it's kind of a board clear. It may not clear everything, but it should clear a lot. And this card's kind of crazy because you can push 12 damage to the face as soon as you play it. You're clearing your opponent's board and you're pushing 12 to the face. It's really strong, but I think the issue is that it's 9 mana, right? And the war deck, Control War, is pretty strong at the time being, but you don't see the 9 mana cards of Rain and Control War. They're typically trying to tempo you out with like Strength in numbers and Hector around 7 mana or 7-8 mana, because people do run Avatar War. But I feel like 9 mana is a little much for this card. But I do like pulling it off Jason. But just because I like to pull it off Jason, I don't know if that's enough to give it that good of a rank. So we're going to go ahead and put it in C tier. But I do think this card could be a lot better if we do see like a harder Control War archetype in the future. Now let's check out Light's 9 mana card, Theriel's Anvil. So this one's a structure that can attack, but it does have a backline ward, and at the end of each turn summons a 4/7 Divine Chains. That's this card right here. And this one's got frontline, and each creature that's damaged by the Divine Chains gets ordered +2. And I think this card's actually really strong. You would have to run this in a Control Light, obviously, and Control Light's not the strongest archetype right now, and so this card might be a little bit slept on, but it's spitting out these chains each at the end of each turn, so not just your turn but your opponent's turn as well. So it can really snowball. You just keep getting these chains out. All the creatures that try to attack it get the order. So I do like this card a lot. Now, I do think there's arguments that there's certain situations where maybe you would just run Poly instead of this. Or who knows, maybe you run both of them. So, just because Control Light is kind of slept on, I'm going to go ahead and put this one in B. Now, next we've got the Arch of Ofammonmos, the Death Structure. So I remember this was the first card that was previewed from the Divine Order set, and everyone was super hyped. So this one, it's a structure, roar and ability, summon 3/1/1 zombies. After a friendly non-zombie creature dies, summon a 1/1 zombie, 3/7. No ward or anything, but it is 6 mana, so you can get it out before like demo or APOC. And I don't know if this card is that great. It's cool, I like it, but it doesn't fit into a lot of decks. You don't see people run it in Board Wipe Death. You don't see people run it in the Corpse Explosion. Maybe you would run this in a tempo death, but the domain's not that strong, and you might want to run something with like a bigger body that's trying to push damage to end game. So with that being said, I am gonna put this one in C, even though it is a really cool card. Okay, next on the list of Raxis, and I already know where I'm putting this. I mean, this is just too much text. Basically, you play this, you get a blessed effect, it generates some favor, and then it's pretty much a coin flip, and it does 5 damage to the person who loses, or 5 damage to both players in case of a tie. This is a D. This is a D for me. Don't like this card. I don't like that. It's just RNG. It's like a Hail Mary for like a player that's losing a game. I don't like the design at all. Right, sticking with the 2 manas, next on our list we've got Dimitrios, Playwright, the 2 mana card from Magic. This one comes down, order 10, roar, add a final draft to your hand. At the start of your turn, upgrade a final draft. So you keep getting these final drafts. The first one does 1 damage and you draw 1 card. And then if at the start of your turn, so if this Dimitrios guy survives, this will upgrade to the 2 mana version, which is 2 damage and draws 2 cards. And I think it does that all the way up to 5 mana. So you get a little bit of damage. You can go face with this, and you also draw cards, which is pretty sweet. And Dimitrios is ran in a lot of Magic decks, almost every Magic deck. It's pretty strong. It's only 2 mana, so you can fit it in an aggro deck. You can fit it in a control deck, obviously. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the Dimitrios in the A tier. Next on the list we got Einar. And I forget his little tag. Einar the Frozen King. 6 mana, 4/5 Viking. At the end of your turn, deal your strongest creature's strength as damage to your opponent's weakest creature, or if they have no creatures, to this creature. So you play it at the end of your turn. It does the damage. Usually it's going to be doing... Usually Einar is the strongest creature, so it does 4 damage to their weakest creature. And it just kind of keeps their board clear. You know, I was describing this card the other day. It's almost like it has Twin Strike and Protected, because if it survives, you can go face, and then at the end of your turn, it just does the damage to a creature without taking damage. So, I mean, that seems incredibly strong. Obviously, you know, if they don't have a creature, it does damage to itself, which isn't good, but you know, the majority of the players are playing aggro, and they're almost always going to have a creature on board. So I think this guy is really good. You know, control war, super strong archetype right now. I don't know if he's good enough for S tier. I kind of want to reserve S tier for a crazier card, but he is incredibly strong, so we'll put him right there in the A tier along with the Dimitrios. Next up, we got another death card, Eva, Baroness. Where is she? Baroness of the Dead. 2 mana, 2/3, but really you're playing this for the afterlife. Transform a random creature that costs 3 or less into a 1/1 zombie and give it this afterlife. So you see this run in the board wipe death a lot. So they kill it, their creature turns into a zombie, and then you can use the Blood Ritual God Power, which destroys a creature with 1 health and heals you for 1 on the zombie, and you just get a train of zombie transformations going. And it's pretty good in board wipe death, but I don't know if you run this in any other deck. And this is gonna have to be a C for me. And I'll tell you why. I know what you're thinking, but Baba, you played board wipe death. Why are you giving this card a C? Well, I don't like it because it messes up. There's a card called Sulfuric Rain, which puts burn 2 on everything, and when a creature dies out, the player draws a card, and it kind of messes with that. So I just rather not deal with the headache. Like, I know it's good against aggro if you get the train going, but you know, there's other ways to deal with an aggro deck as board wipe death. So that's going in C tier. Now we got another 2 mana card. This one's from the Nature Domain. You guys all know what it is. Finian Fruit Bear, the bear of fruits. And this is going to be at the end of your turn. If you are frenzied, summon a 1/1 Vibrant Fruit, which is, of course, is the has the afterlife. Give your strongest creature +1/+1. Now this card was recently nerfed. It used to be a 2/3, but now it's a 2/2, just because it was so insane. If you could get it out like turn 1 or turn 2, maybe like turn 2 behind a Pyramid Warden, this card would just carry your game. Like, the game would be over against aggro. So they tuned it down a little bit, but even with the 2 health, I think this card is incredibly strong. I'm I'm pretty sure this was like the most expensive Divine Order legendary for a time being, so we're gonna put him up there in the A tier. Next up, we've got another nature card, the Gorilla Gardener. This is an 8 mana card, an 8 mana 8/8 wild creature. Now he has backline, blitz, overkill, and after this creature destroys an enemy creature, summon a 1/1 vibrant fruit. The same fruits that the Finian fruit bear spawns. And I think this card's kind of slept on. I know like 8 mana is kind of steep. You know, most nature decks are going to be running like a 6 mana curve unless you're playing a control nature. But I think this card is really strong. Like, you might just replace a healing elite because you know, this comes out with the blitz and the overkill, so you can likely kill one of your opponent's creatures, do some overkill damage, and summon a 1/1 fruit. It seems pretty good, but I just think the problem is the domain. Like, 8 mana is just kind of steep for nature. Even like control nature, it's not the strongest control deck. It does really well against aggro, but it's weaker in the control versus control matchups. But I do like this card, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it next to the Anvil in the B tier. Now we're gonna be looking at the war structure. I think it was cool that they added a bunch of new structures. Like, every domain got at least 2 new structures. Before Divine Order, the structures were kind of lacking. You know, you had like Rampart. I don't even remember what the 2 mana 0/8 is called because no one plays it. So we got some cool structures from the Divine Order set, and Grand Hall may be one of the best ones. It's a 4 mana 2/5 frontline, and it also gives the Roar ability, gives each of your creatures on board leech and +1 strength. And now I'm gonna have to rate this card high, and I'll tell you why. This is gonna be our first S tier. And I'm kind of back and forth between S and A, but then I thought about it, and this card is good. It's really good in control war. I think it also has a place in aggro war as like kind of like a comeback card, or to stall your opponent to get like a red fume down or something. It's really good. It's versatile. So I'm gonna put it up in the S tier because war is just really strong, and I think this card is part of the reason why it's so strong. Now finally we get our first deception card, and it's gonna be the Hollow, the 2/4 with backline ward. And this card's super cool. It's after a friendly creature loses order, add a random guild creature to your hand, and its ability can give a friendly creature order, either +2, +3, or +4. So this thing just prints out guild creatures. Insane value generation. Like the Grand Hall, like, I feel like you can run this in any deception deck and it's gonna be really good. And I like deception a lot. It's probably my favorite domain right now, so we're gonna go ahead and put this in S tier alongside the Grand Hall. The power level is up there. The versatility, the fact it can be played in almost any kind of deception deck, it's gonna be S tier from your boy. All right, now we've got Cadmos, son of Lysander. This is Lysanders Son, and he's a 4 mana 2/4 Olympian with frontline armor 1. After this creature is attacked, give +1 armor to the chosen one. Kind of like an older mechanic. It used to be a god power that made your chosen one strong, but anyways, that's gone now. So and it's roar at a random 6 mana creature in your deck becomes the chosen one. So the 6 mana creature is going to be getting 1 armor every time this is attacked. I think people were kind of hyped up about this when it first came out, because they're like, the thought is like, oh, so it's going to make your Asterius have armor, making it even crazier, or even your Lysander, the daddy of Cadmos. But he's not ran that much. I think people realize that Hybrid Knights are just better. So you don't see the Son of Lysander too much. And I'm gonna have to put him in D. I feel mean doing it, but now I'm looking at the cards I put in C tier, and Cadmos is just way worse, so it's gonna be a D from me. Okay, cool. Then we got some more deception cards on deck. The Lanternbound Fae. So this card's pretty sweet. It's got order 3. After any creature you control loses order, pull this into your hand and reduce its cost by 1. And the roar effect, deal 3 damage. So I remember people comparing this to Neferu, the champion card from the trial set. Because it comes back to your hand, you can just keep playing it, dealing 3 damage. You can now go face with it. And it's also another. So I think this card, I like the design a lot. Like, I think this card is fun to play, but it does seem like a card you would run in a more aggro style deck. Deception not having the strongest aggro archetypes at the moment. So where do we put a Lanternbound Fae? Probably B or C, right? Let's go ahead. I'm gonna put him in B. We'll be kind to the Lanternbound Fae. We'll be kind because I do like the card design a lot. I do think it's strong in the aggro archetypes, even though they are not as strong as some of the other ones. So we'll let him take a spot up there in the B tier. And now another deception card, Lady Marcelle. And she's a 3-mana 3/3 guild, so you could actually generate this off the hollow, the structure we were talking about earlier. So Lady Marcelle is another interesting card. I mean, all the deception cards are pretty like unique compared to the other cards. So Lady Marcelle has a roar effect. Summon 2 rogue skulkers with deadly, and a rogue skulker is a 1-mana 1/1. But then she has the afterlife, summon 2 rogue skulkers with deadly for your opponent. So you do get the 6, 7, 8. You do get like 10 stats for 3 mana, which is insane. But then it has a drawback of after she's killed, you're giving your opponent 2 skulkers, which makes it more fair. But I do think it's really strong just because Deception has a lot of ways to ping off 1/1s. I mean, you can use the Orpheus Distraction, God Power. You know, you can even use like an Umber Arrow to steal the Skulker and run the deadly minion into one of your opponent's creatures. And I like this card a lot. And like the Hollow, she fits into almost every Deception deck. But I don't know if the Lady Marcelle is necessarily going to be like winning you games on her own. She is really strong though, but it's not as crazy as like the amount of card generation you can get off the Hollow. So we're gonna put her up there in A tier. Now we've got a magic structure coming up, the Monolith of Storms. So this is a 5-mana 5/5 structure with order 10, but you gotta read the text. You gotta read the text on this one, boys. After you play a spell, give +2 strength to this creature. Ability: deal damage to an enemy creature equal to this creature's strength, then set this creature's strength to 0. And this card is just insane, man, because you play you get this down, and then maybe the next turn you play like 2 or 3 spells. You get +2 strength on the monolith, and it's got order, so your opponent needs to have a spell to clear it. Since it has order, the creatures are not going to be able to attack it. This card can do tons and tons of damage. It's difficult. It can be difficult to clear if your opponent doesn't have the spells. And there are cards from the Magic Domain that can apply ward and protected the creatures. And this is just a great target to give your ward and protected to, making it even harder for your opponent to kill. And I have been playing Magic, the Tempo Magic, a lot recently, so I might be biased, but I think this card is incredibly strong. It's won me a lot of games, so we're gonna throw it up there in the S tier. Yeah, I think it's interesting. We have all structures up in the S tier so far. Okay, guys, on to Odie. Odie, Valka's Herald. This is a 3-mana 3/2 with protected, and whenever this creature attacks your opponent's god, reduce a random highest mana cost creature in your hand by 1, which can be really strong. This is kind of a little bit slept on ability or effect, I don't know you call it, that Odie has. Like, so let's say you have Negros in your hand, reducing that by 1 is huge. That's like 3 turns or 4 turns. You can play it 4 turns sooner, or even like a Demogorgon. Play a Demogorgon on turn 6. And this card used to have backline too. They just changed it, and it's strong. It's really strong. It's basically a Raid Reveler, but with a bonus. And when it had backline, it was even crazier. Obviously, I want to put it in S tier. I want to put it in S tier because this, you run in control, you run in aggro. It was just that good. But maybe now that they took the backline off, you know, we're gonna put it in A tier because it is really good. But kind of like Marcelle, it's like not winning you games on its own, but it is a super strong card. So, and next up we've got General Orithia, the Amazon, the 7-mana Amazon, frontline roar, summon 2 1/1 Amazon recruits, then give each of your other Amazons, you know, including the recruits, +2/+2 and twin strike. So this is obviously, you know, a card you can run in Amazon. I do think it's good, and I know people are playing Amazon right now. A shout out Sprink, and doing pretty well with Amazons too, might add. But because you have to play it in an Amazon, well, you don't have to, but it's really not good in other decks. I think this has to go in the C tier. Yeah, so cool card, but you know, the fact that it's Amazon kind of limits its potential, in my opinion, so we'll put it right there. All right, next up we have my favorite legendary, not gonna lie, Polyhymnia, Aetheric Hydra. Now this card was absolutely broken when it first came out. So it's got frontline protected ward, armor 4. At the end of your turn, give ward to this creature, and it's a 6/12 Aether. And when this first came out, it used to give protected and ward to your face, and each turn it would give protected and ward to the creature and to your face, and it was just broken. But even with the, you know, they removed the face protection and ward part of it, it's still incredibly strong. You know, this is just a great win con. It's neutral. You can put it in any control deck. Poly is S tier for sure for me. All right, now this one's the Parthene Proscenium. It's a 5-mana 5/5 structure from Light. It's got protected and ward, so it is tricky to deal with, but let's look at the ability here. It says pick one, heal each friendly character for 3. So that's going to include your god or your face, or you can use the ability to give your weakest creature +3 strength. So this just seems like a win card for me. I feel like you need a board for it to be good, because you're either going to be like healing a creature or giving it strength, right? So it's kind of a win more. I know people have tried to make this work in like a control deck, but I mean, you still need a board for it to be good. And like when you're playing control, you're not necessarily like fighting for board. You're more concerned with like clearing your opponent and keeping them off the board. So this one's a little lacking for me. I'm gonna have to put it in D tier. And you hate to see like 2 light cards in the D tier. Maybe it's because I don't play a lot of light. Moving on, the Scepter of Artistry. I think this was the only relic that's a legendary. Yeah. And we saw with the trial set, they did a legendary for each god, like Nephru's Kopesh, Selena's Bow, Orpheus Mask, which I thought was really cool. But with Divine Order, we only got one legendary relic, unless I'm forgetting something. Yeah, one legendary relic. And this one's actually kind of strong. So it's a 0/3 and it's an ability relic. So the ability gives spell boost +2 and order +3 to a friendly creature. Then you remove 1 durability from the relic. So putting the order on one of your creatures and giving it spell boost +2, and you can do this 3 times for a total of 6 spell boost. You know, with all of Magic's access to spells that do damage directly to the face and the monolith, like, you can push out some serious damage with this bad boy. So we're gonna put this in A tier. We're gonna put this in A tier because I think this is like the Dimitrios. You can kind of run this in any deck and get away with it. A lot of the times, I think when you play tempo Magic, or even like a more control, like say like structure Magic, the Scepter can be like the boost on it. The spell boost can be the extra boost you need to squeeze out lethal. So we're gonna put it up there in the A tier. Now let's look at Skilla, or Scylla, Carnival Ringleader. Now, I was really excited about this card when it first came out. I really like the design, I like the art. So let's dive into this. So Skilla has order, she comes down with order 3, right? 3/3 dragon actually. But when this creature loses order, transform it into a 5/5 shimmer scales and give +5 burn to each other creature. And here's the shimmer scales, another dragon. It's got backline, flank, and it's a 5/5, which aren't terrible stats. So you're burning down your opponent's board. I mean, you're burning down the whole board, and then you summon a 5/5. It seems really good, right? Especially if you like play Scylla, and then the next turn you sleep their board. Their characters just burn out. So I thought this card had a lot of potential, but here's where it falls short. It's 4 mana, which isn't terribly expensive, but I feel like at 4 mana, your opponent likely has a way to remove it. You know, Death has 1 mana Blight Bomb, Magic has 2 mana Tracking Bolt, Star Shard Bolt. I mean, yes, you know, War and Light might have a tough time dealing with it, but all the other guys, they just remove it, and then it feels like you just wasted 4 mana, which feels bad because I really wanted this card to be good. But because of those reasons, I'm going to put it down in the C tier. And next up, we have another light card, and this was light strong legendary, okay? And it used to be even more broken, so it's Cern the Moderator. Shout out Cern from the Discord. So this guy is, it says after a creature is healed, draw a card, which is huge because light doesn't have a whole lot of card draw. And its war effect, inflict order +3 on an enemy creature, then heal each friendly character for 2. So if you have a board when this comes down, injured creatures, you're going to be drawing cards. Each friendly character for 2. So it does heal your face as well. This card is really strong. And can you believe this used to be a 4/5 when Divine Order first came out? People were saying that this was like the strongest card in the game when it was a 4/5. They're saying pound for pound, this card was just the best value. And even as a 2/5, it's still incredibly strong. You know, with a 2 attack, it's got the synergy with Mysterious. So this is a desirable card for sure. And I don't know if this goes in S tier. Yeah, this goes in S tier, right? This goes in S tier. You run this in aggro. You probably run this in control too, because it can stall out. It stalls out with the order, heals you, draws a card, and gets a creature on board. Like, what doesn't this card do? So we're gonna put them up there in the S tier. Now Now, next up, we got Takat. Takat the Forgotten. This is a 7 mana 2/5 in Nubian Death. It's got backline, and at the start of your turn and roar, so when it comes out, summon the strongest creature from your void to the board. It gives it Soulless, but it also says if it's in a Nubian, you give it Blitz and Leech. So, not bad value for a 7 mana. Not bad value at all. But I think the problem here is at 7 mana, Death has access to a lot of like really good cards. I mean, there's just a lot of really good 7 mana cards like Demogorgon, Apocalypse Now, and I don't know if you would run this over those 2 cards I mentioned, at least in board wipe Death, just because they're just better. The other cards are just better in that deck, and 7 mana is like, it's expensive. It's expensive, you know. You don't want too many 7 mana cards to like you brick up your hand early, and 7 mana is like a little steep for most aggro decks. I think at 7 mana it would be more of a mid-range. So I mean, maybe you could fit this into a board wipe Death list or some sort of like Death mid-range. I do think it's a good card, and I like the design. I like that it's a Nubian, but I just don't think it's very strong right now. So we're gonna put this one in the C tier. And next up, we got another Death card, the Triage Necromancer. And I actually like this card a lot. It's another Nubian, and it's a 5 mana 5/5. At the end of your turn, summon a random 1 mana creature from your void. So I like to think of this card as like an avatar in nature, but for Death. Now, usually you're going to be getting like a zombie or something, which might be a little worse than the little like trees that the avatar in nature summons. But I think at 5 mana, this is still incredible value. You're getting maybe like 12 stats, and it just keeps on pumping the 1/1s, or you know, 1 mana. So, you know, when you play this, your opponent's going to want to deal with it, so it doesn't generate them more value. But with that being said, you know, aggro Death isn't the strongest. It doesn't really fit into Corpse Explosion. It would fit into Tempo Death. It fits into Tempo Death really well, but like I was saying, it's just not that strong right now. So I gotta put this in C tier, I guess. I kind of want to put it in B tier because I do like the card a lot. But no, we gotta put it in C tier, unfortunately. Okay, we're down to 2 cards. Vortimer the Volatile, 2 mana 2/3 Nether, and this one's interesting. After you play a spell, give this creature +1 strength. At the end of your turn, if this creature has 3 strength or more, set it to one strength and draw a card. So you basically like get to draw cards. It pumps up, so you like pump it up. You can hit in for like 4 damage, 5 damage, but then it resets. But you do get to draw a card because it resets. And a lot of the times, especially in these Tempo Magic, drawing the cards is really important. So I think this card is pretty good. I think that's pretty decent. It's probably not as good as Dimitrios, but I know a lot of people do like to run this in their Magic decks. So we're gonna put it in the B tier. Maybe you do put it in C tier, but I think because like the deck this works in is kind of strong right now, we're gonna keep them in the B tier. Okay, and last but not least, we've got Nature's legendary structure, the Watchtower of Agridor. Now this is a 2/8 with backline, no ward, unfortunately. I've had ward, it might be a little too strong because 8 health is a lot. And this one's an ability structure, so you get to pick one. You can summon Agridor Protector, 3/5 frontline Amazon with regen 1, Tainted Trent, 2/4 wild with regen 1, and at the end of your turn you add a random nature card to your hand, a little bit of card generation. Or you get, I believe it's 3 Vibrant Fruits, which the Afterlife give your strongest creature +1/+1. So this is just a value printer. It seems really good, right? It seems really good. I think this card like should be strong, but it's 6 mana though, and like I talked about earlier, I think like you're trying to, as an aggro deck, you're trying to end the game before like 7 mana, and as a control deck, I mean, I guess this does work well in a control deck, but it could be removed. It could be removed easily. You know, APOC just destroys this. Cards like Reap, Magic can deal with it pretty easily. It's only got 2 attacks, so it can be lights levied. So I think it's kind of easier to deal with than most people realize, or maybe they do realize, and that's why not a lot of people play this. So with all that being said, I mean, I don't hate the card. I do like it. It's kind of like the hollow a little bit, but I don't know, if they repurpose this as like a 2 mana or something, it'd probably be really good, but I think at 6 mana it's just not. So this is gonna be B or C. We're just gonna put them in C. All right, boys, and that's gonna be my tier list. Now that I'm looking at it, I think a lot of these, you know, depending on your play style, you might swap some of these S and A tiers around. Like, you know, if you don't play control, you may not consider Poly an S tier, but this was just kind of my thoughts. I think like these 3 specifically could maybe be an S tier. We'll just call them A+. And now that I look at the B and C, I think you could say a lot of the same things about the B and C. I like Anvil and B. I think it just, no one plays control light. And same thing with the Gardener. Maybe you put the Arch in the B. Eva should probably be in the B, but I don't know. I cut her out of my board wipe death list recently, so she's gonna stay in C. I think if you play Amazon, you'd probably consider this a B. Triage can maybe be a B as well, along with Watchtower of Agridor, if that's a card you like playing. But yeah, man, that's my tier list. Now I realize not everyone's gonna agree with me here on this tier list, and that's completely okay. So if you do disagree with me, I implore you, you should do your own tier list. And I actually made a template of this using Tier Maker. I'll have the link in the description. So if you do your own tier list, I just ask you give me a shout out. You know, post it on YouTube, post it on Twitch, whatever you want to do. But I appreciate all you guys for watching the video, and until next time, peace.